This is the CrowdCrux Crowdfunding Podcast with Sal Brigman, where we cover everything you need to know to launch a successful crowdfunding campaign. We speak with proven entrepreneurs who've raised money from the crowd and want to teach you how to do the same. Stay tuned because we're about to reveal how to launch your dream project. With your host, Sal Brigman.
What's up, crowdfunders? Salvador Brigman here with the Crowdfunding Demystified podcast. And if it's your first time tuning in, welcome. I think that a lot more people have been tuning into this podcast via iTunes search, which kind of surprises me, actually. You know, most for a really long time, a lot of the listeners of this podcast came from my blog, CrowdCrux.com, but we are starting to see more and more people discover this podcast via the iTunes marketplace. So thank you for doing that, and welcome if it's your first time here. Usually I will bring on entrepreneurs who have raised money successfully via crowdfunding. So they've launched a successful Kickstarter or Indiegogo campaign, and they want to share with you how they did that. You know, I really kind of break down exactly the steps that they took to be successful with crowdfunding. So you can just copy those steps and, you know, just follow their path and do the same thing. And I try to bring multiple stories to light. So I know that, you know, there are lots of ways to skin a cat, if you will. I mean, that's a very graphic image there, but there are a lot of ways to get a job done. And in episode number 127, we talked about how you can use Instagram to magnify your crowd. And that entrepreneur actually used Instagram to raise over nearly $50,000 on Kickstarter. I think it was like $48,000, something like that. But that entrepreneur really used Instagram marketing. And then a little while ago, around episode number 118, we brought on John Lee Dumas of EO Fire, and he talked about how he raised $500,000 on Kickstarter, and basically this was all due to his email list. So there are multiple ways to raise money on Kickstarter and other crowdfunding websites. You don't have to just use email, you don't have to just use Instagram, and we're bringing back that theme today because the entrepreneur I've had on actually raised a bunch of money using Facebook ads. So this is kind of like another channel that you can go through to raise money via Kickstarter. But the cool thing about his story is this actually was not his first campaign. So he first launched a campaign on Kickstarter for his watch. It actually flopped. It did not do well. He canceled the campaign, and then he relaunched. He retooled, he reworked the campaign. He did a few things differently, and this second campaign ended up raising almost $90,000 on Kickstarter. So you're going to hear his story, how he grew as an e-commerce entrepreneur, the things that he's learned about the Kickstarter marketplace, what he's learned about marketing in general, and some of just the cool realizations that he's had as an entrepreneur. Keep in mind, this is all a journey, guys. You know, I myself am also on this journey, growing my brand, you know, growing the podcast, growing my new YouTube channel at youtube.com/CrowdCrux. I myself am also growing as an entrepreneur, so I don't have all the answers, but it's kind of cool that we can bring on guests who are in the middle of that growth phase and sort of see what they're like, you know, a year down the road or so. So I always encourage you, if you have run a successful crowdfunding campaign, reach out to me. Would love to have you on the podcast and talk about your story. Before we get into this episode, I just want to quickly mention that if you would like to get the best practices on crowdfunding and Kickstarter, you can go and enroll in my free Kickstarter course. That is at crowdcrux.com/Kickstarter. Just enter your email address. You'll start getting emails from me educating you about the best practices that I've uncovered for launching a great Kickstarter campaign. And again, this is all free. So if you want to check that out, that is at crowdcrux.com/Kickstarter. Without further ado, let's get into today's episode. And I also would love it if you could pay attention to his story. That is what is the golden nugget of this interview to me, because this is a man who knew nothing about Kickstarter, about crowdfunding, about marketing, he didn't really think you could even do it. Like, it seemed overwhelming at first. And if you're listening to this and you're thinking that crowdfunding seems like a lot of work, it seems like a lot of new skills you have to learn, pay attention, perk your ears up, because this man sort of dispels that myth a little bit, but he also shows you what is possible if you're not the most tech savvy person when it comes to marketing and analytics and all these different things, what you can actually accomplish on Kickstarter. Before we get started with this podcast episode, I want to take a second to introduce you to my friends at Fulfillrite. If you need help shipping out your Kickstarter or Indiegogo perks or rewards, Fulfillrite is the absolute best company for you. I've been working with them for a while and I can vouch for their services. They make it dead simple and take all of the headache out of shipping out all of those boxes, all of those orders to your backers and your customers. If you want to check them out, go to fulfillrite.com at FULFILLRITE.com. Hey, Chatty, welcome to the podcast. This is the Crowdfunding Demystified podcast. It's great to be able to connect with you. I know you emailed me a while ago, last August, was it?
Yeah, it was last August, yeah.
Wow, that's crazy. I'm not sure which wormhole you discovered my website down, but thank you so much. You have a really fascinating story. I'd love to hear a little bit more about it. And also, have you been in the watch industry, for a long time? I have like so many questions on my mind right now, but let's start with, when did this passion first come into your life regarding watches and all of that kind of stuff?
Well, it all happened back in 2009 after I was actually an IT graduate, and I was working at the stock market, and after the crash, I lost my job, and my wife was selling online, and I thought I'd start helping her with my experience. Like, she didn't really have a lot of listings. She had a store on a website that was similar to eBay in Dubai. And I think at the time she was doing this for a year, and she had about 600 listings. And I told her, look, I'll help you out here, and I'm going to grow your listings. And with my experience, we started scraping data off Amazon, and we started our own company. I called it the Umbrella Watch Group. I'm a big Resident Evil fan. So within a couple of months, we had about 10,000 listings on our site.
Wow.
And our store was one of the biggest online stores in Dubai. And when it started at the time, I never really thought that I'd end up someday selling watches for a living. But I used to collect G-Shocks from Japan. I used to really like having. I didn't like something that you could just go and buy at a store. So I just go on online auctions in Japan, and I'd buy these weird-looking G-Shocks, like just weird colors, bright yellow and bright green, and just stuff that you can't find in a store. And I wanted to start making them. Because it's really difficult to compete in a market where you have so many brands, and most brands have agents, and it was just so difficult for me to compete. So I thought, look, let me just start doing my own thing. And I started talking to factories at the time. And the first line I did was watches called Sematics, and they were silicone watches, and basically it was portable silicone watches. And we started, and within 2 years, we had 59 watches in that collection, right?
Congratulations.
And then, thank you. And then I just felt like, all right, I need a dress watch now. I can't, I felt I was getting too old for bright yellow watches and red and green and all that stuff. And I just wanted to make a dress watch. And I just really couldn't find anything. Anytime I was looking for something that was just a bit unique or would stand out, the prices just got outrageous. Like, I don't know if it's the dollar value or what the story was, but it's just we're talking 5 and 6 figures. When you live in Dubai, you just go to the mall and you could find a $300,000 watch at the mall. So it was crazy to me, because even though I sold watches and I had thousands of listings on my site, I didn't know that there were watches that cost that much. So I thought, okay, this is not going to happen. So I'm just going to start doing my own.
Yeah, that's so cool though to me that you were able to partner with your wife in the business. She kind of made you she made you her employee a little bit initially.
But basically that's what ended up
So you have to
happening
be nice
actually.
to her. She's your
Oh yeah,
boss.
yeah.
So you guys are based out of Dubai then?
Well, in Dubai, I'm Canadian, and now in Dubai it was mostly working wholesale over there, and I set up in Vancouver also, and actually the company just was in Toronto, but in Toronto I wanted to just focus on the X-frame watch itself, you know.
Okay.
So
Okay.
I'm yeah
So
yeah yeah. So I'm here.
you've been working in the industry for a while. You know, you've brought a product to market. You sort of gained a familiarity with what people are looking for, the different offerings out there, you know, how to really brand these different products, how you do it now. When did Kickstarter first come into the picture to you? Like, that to me is something very different than what you've been doing up until this point. So when did that actually come into the picture?
Well, it was. See, that's what encouraged me is I stumbled on it in 2013 before I started my project, and I always wanted to make a higher end watch, but the problem was the funding, and at the time I just really didn't even know that crowdfunding existed, and I just happened to stumble upon the site, and I just went there and I started looking at it, and I was just like I was honestly dumbfounded. I'm looking at this site and I'm seeing people sitting behind a camcorder and just talking about their product, and I'm like, hey, like I actually have a shot at this. Like I can make this happen. Like maybe if I get this done, and I get there and I show my product and I get in front of people that maybe this does have a chance of coming to life. So that's really how it started. But the sad thing is, at the time when I first saw it, I don't know, maybe it was actually a good thing. I wasn't aware of what goes on in the background, because anytime, and I think that's really a common misconception in crowdfunding, is you'll see somebody sitting behind a camcorder or something like that, and he's talking about his project, and you see it come to life, and you see people come from all over the world and help him, and you think that's pretty much it, that you just sit there and you present your piece. My brother is actually a marketing major, and he worked for an agency, and he was telling me, he was like, I would tell him, I would show him the site. I was like, look, millions of people come on this site every day, and I think I have a shot at this. I'm going to give it a try. And he'd tell me, he was like, well, millions of people go on eBay every day. That doesn't guarantee that you're going to be. I mean, you need to do marketing, and it just seemed so alien to me. Even though he was my brother, I just felt like it was like he was discouraging me to do it. So
Well,
I'm
it's
like,
it's
I'm
a
not.
lot of, I think, a lot of new skills that you sort of have to adopt or figure out a way to bring people into the project to help you with this. So
Yeah,
this is,
yeah.
I mean, to me, this is just overwhelming, especially if you've been working all of your life on creating a great product, to learn that you have to actually put some marketing into it, that Kickstarter is not going to do everything for you. That's a little bit of a jarring moment for many creators in the audience.
Oh
Um,
yeah, oh yeah,
and
yeah, yeah.
I'm
It
really
is.
fascinated too, because you've had a tremendously successful campaign. I mean, you raised almost $90,000 on Kickstarter for the X-Frame. Anyone who wants to go and check it out, the X-Frame mechanical watch on Kickstarter with the Umbrella Watch Group. But it didn't start out that way. Your first campaign, and I hate to draw attention to this, but I think you learned a lot probably,
Oh yeah, oh
did
yeah.
not work out necessarily the way you hoped.
No,
So
no,
tell me a
no.
little bit about that first campaign and sort of how that transitioned into the second.
Well, see, what happened at the time is, uh, okay. Now this is going to sound funny, but when I launched the first time, I had literally uh, not told anybody besides my family and a few friends. So I didn't have an email list. I didn't have contacts. I had a Facebook page with probably less than 100 likes. So I launched it out there just thinking that, okay, I'm going to launch and people are going to come. So when I did launch it, and it just felt like it was just not going to get there, I'm not sure exactly how long it's been on. It was on maybe for 2 weeks or something. I just decided it just looked like we were not going to get anywhere near the $60,000 funding goal. So I decided to cancel. And I knew at the time that most of the funding would come probably in the first 3 days or the first 10 days. And it was slowing down. So I just felt like it was just not going to happen. So I canceled the project, and it was just, I don't know now, it was an impulsive decision at the time, but I was like, okay, I'm just going to cancel and relaunch. So I canceled, and after I did that, obviously it just all sunk in. Like, oh my God, what did I do? I just canceled the project, and we had almost 100 backers, and maybe if I let it go for another month, But then I was like, all right, well, it's too late for that. It's already canceled. So I told my brother at the time, and it might have been a bit too late for that, but I told him, okay, now let's do it your way. Okay, so he came over, and I just set everything back again. And I think at the time I had shipping set at $50 for international shipping, thinking that most of everybody would come from the US or Canada. I didn't know that was so global, that people came from all over the world. And most of the people complained that, why are you asking for $50 for international shipping? And I'm like, well, it's expensive to ship internationally. It's a big package. And so I just decided, okay, we'll cancel and redo it again my brother's way. So he started advertising basically on Facebook. And he started running ads, and they were post engagements. They were click-throughs to the site. It was basically directing cold traffic to the site. So we launched a few days later, and I posted an update. And luckily, I think there was 100 backers that just came from the Kickstarter community the first time, and most of them ended up coming back. So I wasn't expecting that. I thought they were gone forever. So fortunately, most of them did come back, and that gave a lot of momentum in the beginning, in the first day actually of the project. And then also the advertising, it started drawing people to come to the site, and it just fortunately worked out. Like, I would honestly never do that again. I would probably do a lot of, like right now, we're going to do a lot of we're doing a lot of preparation before the campaign starts, and I don't recommend anybody do it the way I did. Like, don't wait to the last minute, don't wait until the campaign starts.
Well, so your first campaign, it looks like it raised about $36,000, which is actually really respectable considering that you didn't do any kind of pre-launch. So there was obviously demand for the product. Like, you can see that with the first campaign. With the second, what I'm curious to know is, when you were doing these Facebook ads before you launched, where was that directed to? Were you directing that to your preview page? Were you directing that to an email sign up? How were you capitalizing on that traffic?
See, that's what I said, because I launched it. I relaunched the campaign, and then I told my brother. So it was literally just directing cold traffic, which really, like, if anybody's listening to it, is not something I'd advise anybody to do. But it was like now or never. Because at the time, I've been talking to the factory for so long, and I just felt like if it wasn't going to happen then, it was never going to happen. Like, there was just no room to delay it any longer than it's already been delayed. Like, it had to happen then. So the traffic was going directly to Kickstarter,
Okay.
So it's going traffic directly to the site.
And this is before you launched or after you launched?
No, that was after we relaunched again.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So you relaunched again. You saw this uptick from all of the people who followed your first campaign. It seems like the Facebook ads started to then pay off. Did you see anywhere else that people were coming in to discover the project, or is it mainly Kickstarter and Facebook?
It was mainly Kickstarter and Facebook. Like, that's really as far as it went. And it's funny you mentioned that, because a lot of backers, and I have to say this, the support from backers is just overwhelming, because so many of them would email me and say, look, you need to have a page on Instagram. And I was like, what the hell is Instagram? And I really didn't know what it was. I had Pinterest, and I didn't know what Instagram was. And then it was somebody who said, look, you need to have a page on Instagram. Nobody goes to Pinterest. You need to set up a page there and put your pictures. And then one backer, he actually offered to do it for me. He's like, look, why don't you just give me the password? and I'll do it for you. I was like, are you serious? So I just gave it to him. And I think within 2 weeks of the campaign, we had 1,000 followers. But I couldn't tell at the time if it was, he did that all himself.
Yeah.
So it was just overwhelming that he helped me like that. But I wasn't sure that it was actually bringing traffic in. But that's also one more thing we did during the campaign. And I have to mention, I tried to reach out to bloggers and to a lot of people. And
congratulations! You've reached the halfway point of this podcast episode. I'm excited to get to the second half, but before we do, I want to take a moment to introduce you to my friends at BackerKit. And BackerKit helps you automate away the painful parts of the survey and fulfillment process. Don't get buried in the spreadsheets and manual data entry that comes with running a crowdfunding campaign. Visit backerkit.com to find out more and use the code CrowdCrux for a special discount. You can also get a discount if you sign up for a free trial before your project or campaign ends. So again, that's backerkit.com, backerkit.com.
Once the campaign launched, I was like, the pressure's on, and I'm just trying to talk to all these people, and so most of it actually was the Facebook advertising. I have to say that, yeah.
Okay.
And the Kickstarter community, yeah.
I'm looking now too. So it looks like you have now around 2,500 followers on Instagram. Congratulations on that. For other people that are listening, if you go back in the podcast episodes, go to episode number 127. Actually, very recently, we had someone on who used Instagram to raise around $50,000 on Kickstarter.
Yeah, I read that. I actually did read that. Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
Cool. Well, so I think that what's so cool about, to me, your launch is you're sort of discovering new things as you go. You know, you're discovering that Facebook ads is working well for you. You're discovering that there is a thirst or a demand for your type of product on Kickstarter. And that's just like really cool to me, because coming from this business background, the more you learn about your customers, obviously the better you're going to do. And I imagine you're applying all of this to your upcoming campaign.
Oh yeah, definitely, yeah.
So tell me about the one that you're planning now for the Umbrella Watch Group.
Okay, well, see, it was like you said, just a progression. Like I just started basically following other campaigns, and I think everybody sees who hasn't been on his Facebook page and seen sponsor ads, right, for upcoming Kickstarter or Indiegogo campaigns, and I basically follow them. So I click on the link, subscribe to the email, and I'd look to the emails that are being sent. I'd go on Instagram, I'd put their hashtag in, and I'd see who they reached out to. I just opened up an Excel spreadsheet for Instagram, for example, and there was one project that I really liked that I followed, and I put his hashtag in, and I've seen how much reaching out he's done on Instagram, and I started literally just emailing these people one by one, and the ones that didn't ignore me, they basically sent back a rate, and so it's paid advertising, but it's for Instagram influencers. But I thought for this campaign that we just more concentrate on Facebook, primarily on Facebook ads. So what we're doing this time really is we're setting up a landing page. We have a landing page actually set up, and the advertising that's on Facebook draws people to the landing page where they can subscribe for emails, and we have a giveaway. There's a platform I think everybody should take a look at. It's called WooBox. And it basically allows you to do giveaways and to do stuff like that. It helps you. It has thousands of templates where you can set up your own landing page, and people could come to that, and it gets them excited because they can share, and the more they share your campaign, whether it's on Facebook, they share it on Twitter, or they share it on Google, so they get more entries. And this way, you kind of get people involved, and you get them more excited about your launch. And that's what we're really focusing on right now, is just trying to do most of the work before, where like first time the launch was literally 0 emails. And now we have like a target where we want to reach a specific number of emails before we actually launch. And at this time, I talked to reviewers beforehand. So we're going to be sending out like watches to reviewers, like bloggers, so that they can take a look at it. They can, write about it and say what they think.
Very
So
cool.
we just really want to do like everything. Just be prepared beforehand, not just launch without doing anything, and just launch and like hope everything goes well, like I did the last time. Like it was just really fortunate that things did work out the way they did the first time. But I'm pretty sure had we done the work beforehand, that the result things would have gone a lot smoother.
So how do you spell that the name of that tool? Woobox?
Woobox, WOOBOX.
Okay, Woobox. I'll have to include that in the show notes. And the second question I have for you is, could you give us a ballpark idea of how many subscribers you're looking to line up before you launch this next one? Curious there.
Well, yeah, actually, we're aiming for 5,000. We're aiming for 5,000 emails because see, and I think it's important, like people know that you cannot expect everybody in those emails. It's going to be a low percentage, So not everybody who's going to sign up for your email is going to come to Kickstarter and back you. So you have to get your own email list. Like if anybody's listening to it, don't try to go and buy emails. It doesn't work that way. You have to build your own list for your own product. So we're aiming at 5,000 and hopefully we get to that number. Like it's not really easy, as you already know, because anytime you advertise on Facebook, it's trial and error in the beginning. So you're doing a lot of testing. You're running so many ads, and some of them work, some of them might not work. So it will take probably a couple of weeks till you hit that sweet spot, and you feel like, okay, now we could scale up. Where this here is showing some results. This ad is working, or this ad is not working, and you could just start scaling up and hopefully get more emails.
Exactly. I think that's sort of like a big misconception. Also, you think you can just hit turn on the advertising and all of a sudden you're going to start getting pledges. You actually have to do a bit of learning as to what ad is converting best, which audience is converting best, what kind of copywriting is working best, all that kind of stuff. Also, when I was looking through your Kickstarter campaign, something that really surprised me was the number of backers you were seeing from Singapore. I think like you, I would have expected, US, UK, Canada, like Australia, but Singapore to me stood out. And that was very surprising to me. Were you also surprised by that?
Actually, this was a big coincidence, and it was completely unexpected because I thought everybody would come from Canada. Being that the project was Canadian, I thought everybody would come from Canada and the US, and like this. Probably it was a really small number of backers that did come from Canada. But when we were doing the Facebook advertising, most of the most of the people that were clicking on the ad were from Singapore. So we just mostly targeted Singapore, and it just and it ended up that most of the backers did come from there. So when we were running the ads, and I'm looking at because you could look at how your ads are working on Facebook, and it tells you like, look. People from Singapore are the ones that are clicking the most. So we just ended up targeting Singapore more than anyone else, Mm-hmm. And that's what happened, actually. Yeah.
That's funny how that works. I imagine you were also targeting people who regularly are aware of Kickstarter or crowdfunding in some means.
Yeah, it was, yeah.
Definitely. That's very cool to me. Did you ever do Facebook ads for your business before Kickstarter, or is this just like a whole new thing?
Never. And that's why I'm telling, that's why I really want anybody who's sitting here listening to this to know, like, don't do this. Please do not do this during the campaign. Do this all beforehand because it's a learning. I've never placed an ad before. My brother he came the first couple of days and he gave me an idea how to do it. And I don't advise anybody to do that. Like it worked out with me, but this way you're obviously not going to be so efficient about it because now you're already started. You don't have much time, and you're trying to learn something that you've never done before. So do this beforehand and start with a small budget. I mean, people don't know this, but you don't need thousands of dollars to advertise on Facebook. You can start with as low as $5 or $10 a day. So try to learn all of this before you start. Like don't do this during the campaign.
What I like too about your story is the fact that now that you've learned all of these things, you've experimented, you can also apply this to your own business off of Kickstarter. Like, cause you're learning a little bit about Facebook ads. Now, if you ever want to do a campaign for your business, you can do that. Or for a particular e-commerce product, now you can do that.
Exactly. Like, see, the thing is, my business, even though we sold watches before, but I worked primarily in wholesale, so I wasn't doing any of the marketing. I mean, I would basically hand over the stock that I got to somebody else, and then they would sell it. So the whole time that I was actually, even though I've been selling watches for so long, I was actually not directly marketing my own website. Like, I didn't know how to do it. So I'm just like, okay, I'm just going to stick to wholesale, and they can deal with it their way. I'll just hand over my stock, and it's just easier to do it that way. So when I went on Kickstarter, then I was like, all right, now I'm starting to learn how to actually do it on my own. So like you said, yeah, of course, it's been a rewarding experience actually learning how to do this, because it's really the biggest part, like marketing, advertising. It might sound so alien to people, but that really is the most important key to like having things work out,
The cool thing too is, even if in the future you do want to outsource that, or you do want to bring someone on your team to handle that, at least now you can look over their work and you have an idea of what they're doing. You can learn from it.
Actually, sir, I have to admit, this time actually we did for this campaign. Yeah, I did outsource it. Somebody's helping me do it because I did it the first time, and like I said, I wasn't efficient, So I'm like, okay, I'm not going to risk trying to do this again this time on my own. So I should get somebody that's experienced, that has the experience, that's done this many times before, and I should get someone else to like do this. And so this time somebody else is helping me. He's running the ads and all that stuff. And I recommend that people do try to find somebody that's more experienced than them instead of just trying to venture out on their own and try it. Like, of course, if you don't have a choice, if you have budget constraints, or you feel like you're confident that you could actually handle it on your own, you should try it. But I highly suggest you find someone who's more experienced, who's done this before, and reach out to them.
I think that makes a lot of sense. If you do have the budget, I have two more questions for you, and the first question, it's sort of it's about your journey as an entrepreneur. So after this Kickstarter campaign for the X-Frame mechanical watch, what did it feel like when that campaign was over? You raised nearly $90,000. What did that feel like to you?
Well, it was really, I was just, honestly, it was a humbling experience because I'm not just talking about the money that was raised, but it's just that you see people that don't know you just come from all over the world and support you, and they're really actually as passionate as you are about your product. So it was just great, and it was just overwhelming that people were so supportive. Like, and people have to know that backers are really, they're not just there for the product. They're passionate about what you do, and they believe in you, and they want to be with you like along the ride, So it was really humbling for me to see that kind of response from people who don't know me, like how supportive they were. Like I was just I was totally blindsided by it. I was not expecting it, So it was really overwhelming, and I was just so happy at the time because I'm like, this thing is actually going to come to life. We're actually going to do this. Like I flew to Hong Kong and I went to the factory like almost right after that, before Christmas, and I went down there and I wanted to start right away, like to just get this thing get this thing made, and get this out there, So I was just really happy that it actually happened.
Exactly. That's the cool part about Kickstarter is this product is actually going to exist in the world. Like people are going to be able to touch it, hold it, wear it, and you're changing that experience for them. You're giving them a product that is so different from the mainstream things that are out there. So that's also really cool to me.
Yeah, it is. Like it is. Like I mean, especially I spent so long on it. I mean, I started literally with a paper sketch on a piece of paper. And I just sketched out this watch, like the design, and it started from there. And actually see it and know that people are wearing it right now. It was just like overwhelming, Like I was just so happy that it actually did happen, Like things really did work out,
That's really cool. I mean, you're having an impact on the world that way, and you've gathered a base of people that are as enthusiastic as you are about this kind of product. Watch goers, people who care about the design, all that kind of stuff. That's really cool to me that you've sort of gathered a little bit of that community.
Yeah.
The second question I have for you here. So I'm looking at your website. Is the website that you'd like to mention xframe.watch? Is that the one you want?
Oh yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
So anyone listening, go and check that out, x-frame.watch. You have a pretty cool website. It looks like it's pretty robust e-commerce store. Are you using any kind of tools or things you'd like to share for that?
Yeah, I do actually. It's a good thing you mentioned that. Like there's two main platforms that are actually free. This website that you're looking at, it took 1 day to make. So I know people might say, okay, well, he's an IT graduate. He probably knows how to do it. Well, no, actually, it was that easy. There's a platform called Wix that's similar to Shopify. I used Wix, and I literally set it up in 1 day. And you can connect it to your PayPal. They even have a way to set it up, something called Stripe, where you can accept credit cards. So you could literally have your own fully functional e-commerce website in a day. All you have to do is just sit there. I mean, it's free to start. You start there, and there's so many templates that you could choose from, and you could just customize it and make it your own. So I really recommend people go on Wix, or the better one actually is Shopify. It's very similar to Wix, and Shopify is extremely popular. So just go on there, and you'd be surprised. Like even if you don't get intimidated, don't think that somebody else has to do it for you. You could go on there and you could have it set up probably within a day. It's that easy. Like things are not like where they were before, where you have to pay somebody to do your website for you. You could go on there and you could have something really nice. And the website you're looking at, it took 1 day.
That's cool. It's so cool to me that we're living in a world where now that you can do that, like now it's so easy to set up a website. It's cool to me that you've been able to gather a crowd, whereas never before has that in the history of humanity has been so easy to do that. And to hear that you've gone from being an IT graduate and working on that kind of stuff to discovering this whole new passion that you have for watches, and I can hear you clearly. You sound passionate about it. And working with your wife, and now this might be a family business. That's a very cool transformation, I think, that you're undergoing right now. And I do feel privileged to be able to interview you. I know it's been a long time in the coming.
Yeah, it is. I have to say, Sal, like, just anybody who's listening to this, I just don't want. It might be discouraging at first when people hear like, "Oh my God, so." Yeah, they have to do advertising and they have to do this. Like, not to get discouraged. Like, this might sound overwhelming at first, and it did to me. I mean, and discouraging. And sometimes, even after my first campaign, sometimes I get emails from other people who want to launch on Kickstarter, and they talk to me, and I tell them my whole story, and I feel like they get upset with me, like I'm discouraging them from doing it because. they really believe in what they want to do, and sometimes I get to feel like I'm not really discouraging anyone, but that's really the best way to is like you really need to prepare ahead of time, and you need to do all this. This is like very important, the advertising and marketing. So it's not as difficult as it sounds. It's just a learning process. Just take your time to do it, and it's better to just be prepared than to just learn this afterwards, like I did. Like just try to do everything ahead of time.
Very well said. Well, thank you so much for coming on the podcast, sharing some great tools, sharing your strategy, and also just sharing your story with us. I think it's really inspirational. For anyone who wants to check him out, go to X-Frame on Kickstarter, or you can go to his website, x-frame.watch. Chaddy, it's been great talking with you, man, and I look forward to your upcoming Kickstarter campaign.
Thank you so much, Sal. Thank you. Like, there's really not so many people out there. Like, your site has really helped me. There's not too many people out there who are trying to, let people know about this. Like, your website, I've logged on there so many times. There's just so much stuff there that people can learn from. And thank you. Like, you don't know. I mean, it's really helped me a lot. It's really helped me a lot. So
thank you also. It's creators like you coming on the podcast, sharing what you're doing that allows me to just keep it going. Because really, passing on that knowledge, you're also doing a great job there. So thank you for that. And I'm glad you also were helped by it. But thanks so much. I mean, it's been great talking with you, man. We could talk about this for hours. I actually do. Definitely. I would love to have you back on the podcast with your next campaign and see how that goes and what you've learned. But for now, I think it's been a lot of information. Let's let people digest that, and then we'll go from there.
Definitely. All right, Sal. Thank you so much.